So, folks, there is a lady in Congress. I know it's crazy. What is this? The 2025 women in Congress. What will they think of next? But it's true. There is one at least in there, and her name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. All right. And we're going to be talking about her because she did a great 45-minute long discussion about what is happening with Medicaid and the proposed Republican cuts. It's fairly comprehensive. We're gonna go over it, and let's go. Let's go. And the reason I'm doing this as a segment is because I think a lot of you guys wouldn't watch this unless I was here talking about it with you. So we're going to dive into it. Before we do, hey folks, are you watching this on YouTube? Remember to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps out the channel. And we've almost overtaken the amount of followers I have on Twitch. Don't you want to beat those Twitch assholes? I bet you do. Hit the subscribe button today. That was really mean. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Twitch. God. Anyway, do the things. I love you guys, Twitch. Sorry. Hit the butt. All right, here we go.
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? How's it going? Waiting for some folks to join us. Let me see if this is working. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? I know it's a Saturday night, so I'll make sure to post this when we're all wrapped up. Hey, everyone. What's up? But I want to talk about, someone said that's an incredible plant. Thank you. Fun fact about this plant right here is that I first got this tree when it was like this big, and it was one of the first things I got when I got to Washington, and I got it from a local plant store, and it was this big, and now it's grown into this big thing. Anyways, hey everyone. I want to talk about a bunch of things. I know there's been a ton of stuff going on in the news. I know it's been a while since I've been on live, but obviously also I've been seeing a lot of you all on the road.
Okay, yeah, you guys are noting that her hair looks great, and I genuinely, how do I get my hair to look great? I don't know, but that looks amazing.
I want to talk about some of what we can do right now, actually. This is a very important week. I know that, can you all hear me? Someone said they can't hear.
I do watch Leah Miller sometimes, not a ton.
I know that this is a super important week. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure the microphone isn't covered. Ooh. Can you all hear me? Okay, so I know this is a very important week. And I want to talk to you about some of these things because there's so much happening in the news. And once again, we have to make sure that we are not in a reactive state. I know there is a lot of crazy, dangerous, terrible things that are going on. It does not mean that we don't care about them, but it's that they always want us on our back foot, reacting to things that have just happened. We can do that, but they also don't want us on our front foot preparing for what they are going to do next. And what I want to talk to you all about today is some of the things that they are planning to do next week and how we can prepare, because we have a very unique opportunity to derail and get ahead of the game and derail what they are about to do. And I want to talk to you about that because I've talked in past lives about how the number one priority for Republicans this year is to pass this massive tax cut for the rich and to attack and gut Medicaid in order to pay for it.
And we did cover that breakdown that she did months ago. And basically everything she talked about really came to pass. I, for one, really appreciated her breakdown of that in the past. You can watch that, obviously, on her channels, or you can watch my breakdown of that on mine. But I'm interested to see how, like what her take is. Like, how can we do more than just call? That's kind of what I'm interested in. I think a lot of it is going to boil down to calling and, amping up pressure on members of Congress. But I'm interested to see where this is going to go, because I imagine it's going to be more complicated than just call.
One of the first major steps that we have that they are going to be doing to proceed on that process is next week. In fact, it's on Tuesday so far. And so I want to talk about what we can do to prepare for that next week. And yes, I will be answering some of your questions and talking about some of the other stuff that's going on. We saw some of the horrible stuff that happened in Newark. ICE, making sure ICE kind of arresting the mayor of Newark and some other things that are going on. So I'll talk about that, but I want us to get ahead of the game. Right now, there is a link in my bio, ocasio-cortez.com/save Medicaid. I want to talk about what's about to happen on Tuesday and what we can do to change what is going on, and also some of the things that are happening within the Republican Party. So first and foremost, on Tuesday, like about a month ago or so, Republicans put budget instructions on the floor of the House, and they voted to direct the Energy and Commerce Committee to cut $880 billion from their budget. Now, when you look at the numbers, given some of the guidelines and parameters that they put down, the lion's share of that $880 billion is going to be cut from Medicaid. Medicaid is one of the largest, if not the largest, health insurer in the United States of America. Out of every 5 Americans, 1 is covered by Medicaid. So 1 in 5 Americans is covered in whole or in part by Medicaid. So we are talking about one of the largest blows to healthcare in the United States. And they want to do that because they need to cut $880 billion from Medicaid in order to pay for and finance their tax cuts for billionaires. And so that's the board that we've got going on right now. Now, someone said Medicaid is for Americans only. That's correct. Anyone that's telling you that there's all this stuff happening in Medicaid is largely lying to you, to be honest with you. In fact, undocumented people, let me just start off with that piece. Undocumented.
Comrade Girl, if your representative is not on the Energy and Commerce Committee, you'll get a side panel that basically covers this. Basically, blah, 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 blah. If you're represented by a Republican who isn't on the Energy and Commerce Committee, please use this other page to call. So go do that. And if you aren't represented by a Republican, call your Democrat.
Pay billions of dollars in federal taxes to help finance programs that they are ineligible for. Okay? So anyone who tells you that undocumented people are all getting Medicare and all this other stuff, that's simply not true. It's just not true. They pay taxes. They may pay for your Medicaid, but they're not paying for their own Medicaid. I'll tell you that much. Now, here's the thing. And that's the first distraction, number 1, right? Is trying to get you to cut your own health insurance because they're trying to get people all twisted up into believing that their health care is, and that the problems in this country is their neighbor, instead of the actual billionaires that are literally putting everything in motion to steal your health care to pay for their tax cuts. So don't fall for the rope-a-dope, okay?
Don't fall for it. They're trying to reverse Robin Hood us. Don't. Is it a reverse Robin Hood if they're just being the Sheriff of Nottingham? I guess that would just be the Sheriff of Nottingham. They're trying to Sheriff of Nottingham us.
Now, number 2 is this hearing is happening on Tuesday. There are 20-something members, Republican members, on the Energy and Commerce Committee. This year, I was appointed to this committee. So I have front row center seats to what is going on. And that's why I'm telling you about it right now. Many of the Republicans on the Energy and Commerce Committee that have to vote to proceed on these cuts are from swing districts. Okay? That means we have an opportunity. Everyone on this is not a committee where everyone is in a Republican plus 30 seat. There are people that are in, there's something known as a Cook report score, which is basically like the margin of victory. There are 2 Republicans that are in dead even seats, R plus 0. There are, I think, about 5 Republicans that have a less than 5-point margin on their Cook score. And I think there's about 12 that are
We're going to speed
less
this up
than
a little
10.
bit.
That means we have an opportunity here. And that means the time is now to be blowing up the phones of the Republican members on this committee in the next 72 hours, okay? Within the next 72 hours. Making sure that means, and maybe a little bit longer than that, because that means we can be, and even though it's the weekend, you can leave a voicemail today, you can leave one tomorrow, you can have your nice Mother's Day brunch, and then after that, make your phone call, or you can make it on Monday and Tuesday. This markup, this is something known as a markup, this hearing on this bill is currently scheduled, sometimes they change it, but it's currently scheduled to start on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Someone said, who are the Republicans on this committee? If you click on the link in my Instagram bio, or if you just go to ocasio-cortez.com/save Medicaid, you can see what some of that stuff is. You can type in your zip code and you can see.
And Yenzo in Twitch chat writes, what's even wrong with undocumented people getting health coverage? Literally nothing. Literally nothing. Hot take. Everyone should have health care. Everyone should. Not just from like a moral and ethical perspective, but literally from a financial perspective as well. It is cheaper to provide people health care across the board, in large part because that also enables them to get preventative care, which prevents it from becoming worse and more expensive. In fact, it helps to keep people healthier when they have health care that they can just use. So like, from like basically every perspective one can imagine, we should want everyone in our society to have healthcare. Even people who are undocumented. Everyone, regardless of their origin, regardless of their station, regardless of like the circumstances of their birth, their ideology, whatever, they should have healthcare. It's just the right thing to do on every single level. Republicans just, frankly, they want people to suffer so that they can line their donors' pockets.
Represented by one of those members on the committee or not, and you can make a phone call. I also, if you type in your zip code and if your member is on that committee, it also populates a call script if you need help knowing what to say when you want to call them. Of course, if you want to say your own thing, that's more than fine, but the call script is there to help give you a guide.
What's the strategy, Jack, if my Democratic rep is on the committee? You call them and tell them to fight like hell against these cuts. That's the strat.
Now, and yes, it's the Energy and Commerce Committee. Now, there are different parts of reconciliation that are going to move through different committees. After Energy and Commerce, it's going to move through the Budget Committee, which is different, which is a different set of members. But the Energy and Commerce Committee is one of the most important places where we can move this stuff through. They're also going to be attacking SNAP through the Agricultural Committee.
The proposed changes to SNAP are some of the most devastating, by the way. We didn't go over these earlier, but they're quite bad. Here, let me pull up like a breakdown just real quick. Yeah, here it is. This is Bobby Kogan, Senior Director of the Federal Budget Policy for the Center of American for American Progress, breaking down things as he reads through it. I should follow that. It's the largest SNAP cut in history. Basically, significantly raises the waiver threshold, requires your area to have an unemployment rate at least 10%. And even then, you only get a year waiver. So you can only get a waiver if the economy is worse than the height of the Great Recession. So that's cool. Basically, you just don't get waivers to get SNAP unless we have Great Depression too. Republicans are going after something they long hated, where if you get even $1 of LAHEAP, you get SNAP. They're really, really pissed that states will use their flexibility to get some extremely poor people SNAP who wouldn't otherwise qualify. So they're upping it to a $20 requirement. Addendum from above. So I mentioned they're making it so ABODs now go up to 64, making it so that your kid is 7 or older. They're not a dependent for this. So they'll take food away from you if you have a 7-year-old, if you lose your job during a catastrophic recession. Truly evil stuff. Like literally they're talking about the Great Recession, like the 2008, the Great Recession, the subprime mortgage crisis. People lost their jobs, economy imploded. Impossible to get jobs. LAHEAP is what it allows people to like survive frigid winters and not fry to death in the heat. A 7-year-old is a yeah, that's the thing. A 7-year-old, for all intents and purposes, in every other legal circumstance, is a dependent, except when you're trying to get food to keep them alive, I guess. Then they're not. Because, Republicans want to have, the rich keep more of their money. Next section is about punishing poor people for living too extravagantly, which Republicans define as, and I'm not making this up, having internet access. Internet costs are no longer allowed to be used in computing the excess shelter expense deduction to determine benefit levels. So basically, guys, if you have internet and you're dirt poor, you're living the high life. You're probably not going to get SNAP, apparently. Previously, states paid 5% of SNAP expenses. Now states are going to pay 25%. So that's super, super cool. It's basically the agricultural bill for SNAP gives a bunch of tax breaks and handouts to farmers, while cutting and gutting any of the actual food benefits to children. So that's what is currently being proposed when it comes to SNAP. Who the fuck decides this bullshit? Republicans, who are in the pockets of big money donors, big business, the billionaires. We're in the time of robber barons, folks. Perhaps even in the time of robber kings. And we need to fight them with everything we got. We need to fight them with everything we got. These people have had too much power for too long, and now they think they have the right to kill us in order to get tax breaks. I don't even understand how this gets them more money. SNAP and TANF actually generate economy. Yeah, but like the thing is, they don't care that these policies are good for the general economy because none of these ghouls, none of these billionaire ghouls care about the general economy. They want to become the general economy. That's kind of the thing, right? Like, and if that means they destroy the general economy until they're the only monopolies left in town, they're fine with that. They are fine with that. Like, they're fine nuking the entire United States as long as they can set up New Vegas and lord over it as the God Kings, you know? They're all obsessed with this entire, like, fantasy world where they become like AI techno gods. Like they're all insane. You know, like they're as insane these days, these billionaires like Elon Musk and like Peter Thiel. They're all as insane as like the lead-addled inbred morons that dictated European politics for, 1,000 years. All right? They're just as crazy, and we need to honestly talk about them as if they are that crazy. Too many people give them way too much credit as being like effective or scheming or like actually capable. These people are not capable. They lucked into money by having someone that they knew who was smarter than them go, hey, what if we had a bank, but it was online? And then someone was like, and then they were like, I'll give you $10 million to make that happen. And then they turned that $10 million into, 100 billion. But like, they're not smart people. Elon Musk like twisted a car company that he didn't even create so that he could release a line of like novelty cars with model numbers that spelled out sexy. That was his master plan. Goddamn morons. Yeah, no, but you know what, Enzo? That's exactly it, right? They make themselves out to be Bond villains when actually they're the cast of Jackass, but less aware. They're like, Mr. Bond, as you can see, I've put my ball sack into a vice, attached to a trebuchet. When you cross that line, the trebuchet will fire. And then, who will be laughing then? As my balls sack sails through the air. And it's just like, what? Wait, what? No one. That's awful. Why would you do that? I've gotten a venture capital firm to invest $12 trillion into my ball sack trebuchet. And it's just, like, that's like, I'm being hyperbolic, but like, that's genuinely what a bunch of them have been able to do with like AI technologies. Like, genuinely. Do we have Elon stands in this chat? No, we fucking don't. Casino Royale if it went the extra mile, exactly.
A bunch of other stuff too, but the crown jewel, one of the crown jewels of what they're going for is Medicaid. Again, they're also going to try to cut SNAP in order to pay for tax cuts for Elon and billionaires and the 1%. And by the way, for I see a comment that says $38 trillion in debt. Yeah, these bills explode the national debt and the national deficit. In fact, Donald Trump's 2017 tax cut bill also exploded the national debt and the national deficit. Because guess what? When billionaires and mega corporations in this country don't pay into the taxes like you do, then we have very few things. It reduces the amount of income that we have in order to pay for a properly functioning, developed society. And so if you are concerned about our national debt and national deficit, I sure hope you support raising and actually just returning to normal taxation levels for the wealthiest people and corporations in America. But the answer is not going to be in cutting Medicaid. That's first and foremost. Number two, they love to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. But if that were true, The cuts to any waste, fraud, and abuse that they identify should be reinvested into more efficient delivery of these programs. If you find that, oh wait, we have found that we could make this process more efficient, then make it more efficient and expand the amount of healthcare provisions that are available to people. But that's an aside. The answer is not in cutting veterans care as they've been doing. The answer is not in defunding the PACT Act as they've been doing. Because I'll tell you, our service members go abroad and they breathe in air from burn pits and they get exposed to toxic inhalations. Their healthcare should be covered, and you shouldn't be making a buck off of the misery and off of defunding healthcare.
And I'm just gonna say, like, one of my friends, is married to a veteran who inhaled air from these toxic burn pits, and he's permanently fucked up, like from breathing in all of that the toxic fumes from the burn pits. And yeah, that should be covered. The US government fucking poisoned him and ruined the function of his internal organs permanently. Yeah, his health coverage should be covered. The fact that the US government is trying to weasel out of its commitment to veterans, to the people of the United States, is disgusting. It's why I call these Republican politicians traitors. And it's because they've betrayed the most vital part of our republic, the very people that make it up.
Service members. Anyways, I will continue. We have an opportunity to stop this, and we have an opportunity to act right now. So my first ask is to go to that link in my bio and see if one of your members is represented on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And if you type in your zip code, it will tell you that. Sorry, I got a lot.
I'm linking it in chat. You guys can check out that link I just posted. I just posted that link in chat. It's a tool that will help see if you have a member on that Commerce Committee.
Computer in front of me for light. If type in your zip code, it will tell you if you are represented, and if you are, then it will give you the call script. It'll tell you everything that you need to do. And yes, you can make pressure calls on Republicans, but it is also important. It is also important to give positive calls to Democrats who are standing up and doing the right thing. All too often.
This is true, and I know it's galling as hell, but if your representative is doing the right thing, give them a call and tell them that they're doing a good job. They are human beings, and those positive calls really do stand out to them on an individual human level, and it can mean the world to them. And they're your representative. You want them to like you.
In politics, people engage in all sticks and no carrots. And I do think that it's important. You have to show two things at once. Both that, one, if an elected official is doing something that you oppose, that you will also oppose them. But two, that if a politician is standing up and does do the right thing, that there is actually a constituency for doing the right thing, and that people are willing to take action to support that. So positive things are just as important to. Positive.
If your Congress member isn't on the Energy and Commerce Committee, you can again reach out to different members of Congress via 5calls.org, your elected representatives. You can ask them to do what they can in their various capacities in Congress. I'm just going to link 5calls.org for those of you who would like to get in on that.
This is important to do as tough love. It said that it was pausing it. Anyways, so that's first and foremost that I want to talk to you all about. Save Medicaid. And by the way, I want to get a little bit more granular as well. There are members on the Energy and Commerce Committee from states all across the country. From Michigan, you've got Gabe Evans in Colorado. We did one of our rallies in Greeley in his district. We've done rallies in other Republican districts as well.
That's a good question, Comrade Girl. Can Dems prevent this from passing? My understanding is that Mitch McConnell kind of gave up our leverage and kicked the can down the road. I'm unsure whether or not we now are able to stop it come the final vote on this in December. Did I say Mitch McConnell? I meant Chuck Schumer. I meant Chuck Schumer. I wish Chuck Schumer had as much of a spine as Mitch McConnell. Jeez. I did say Mitch McConnell. I meant Chuck Schumer. I'm so sorry. Everyone's aroused right now.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
But yeah, Chuck Schumer kicked the can down the road from its initial budget date back into September. This bill is going to go to a final vote in September. Right now, amendments are being voted on by the different committees, like the Commerce Committee, Energy and Commerce Committee. So, like, so like that's why we're putting effort on trying to call people who are on that committee, because people on that committee can make changes to what is being proposed. However, I'm unsure whether the Democrats in the Senate are able to stop this on procedural grounds come September. I'm unsure about that at the moment. Yeah, they're also able to potentially put a stop to it when it comes to agriculture and like cuts to SNAP. Again, we'll see what happens, but we need to leverage as much pressure as we can to try and influence the outcome.
Very, very close, tight, and competitive seats. And if they are able to hear from their constituents, and if they're able to respect their constituents' desires, which is possible in these kinds of close seats, then we may be able to slow down this bill or stop it altogether. And if we are able to stop it altogether, then we are also able to save Medicaid. And I want to tell you, again, do not give up on this, because the pressure is starting to work. Donald Trump and Steve Bannon, one of his top political strategists, are realizing how many people in this country are on Medicaid and how many Republicans are actually on Medicaid. There are lots of Republicans who receive government programs and government benefits who, in order for them to sustain this, they convince everybody that somehow like a bunch of undocumented people are taking all the Medicaid in this country, which is not true. They want to lie.
Yeah, undocumented people can't get Medicaid. We'd be a better country if they could. If we just had universal health care, we'd be a better country.
Say that all like their new thing is able-bodied men, as though there's like millions and millions and millions of like 20-year-old guys that have like somehow fraudulently taking Medicaid. Also not true.
Yeah, most of the people on Medicaid aren't able-bodied young men. If they were, they'd probably be in the military, They had nowhere else to go.
Is already one of the most efficient government programs in the United States. Like, literally, all the fat from it has already been trimmed. And if you're on Medicaid, you probably already know that.
Hey, Amanda Corian.
So what they are saying, because Trump's popularity is tanking due to these boneheaded ass-backwards tariffs that he's put on, because...
Which, by the way, apparently today, they dropped the tariff on China for 90 days back down to 30%. So it went from like 155% or something to 30%. Like it's nuts. It's nuts. The level of uncertainty currently being injected into the market is wild. And like as bad as like the supply chain disruption is going to be from like this like tariff nonsense going up and down and being as bad as that's going to be, right? Like there's already a certain amount of suffering kind of baked in where like the economy is going to roil for, months from just this supply chain disruption. But the bigger issue here is the uncertainty. The uncertainty is going to like keep things bad and keep things painful, because businesses price uncertainty into their goods. One of the things you need to understand about like modern politics, not politics, modern economies, is that uncertainty is risk. And when a good is riskier to price, well, or riskier to ship because you don't know what its price is going to be, and it's not dependable over a certain period of time, then you tend to, out of an abundance of caution, price it higher. Price it higher. Right? So it's bad. In uncertainty, you either price it higher or you don't ship at all because you're waiting for a better opportunity to get in, right? It's really bad. And one of the things that uncertainty can do is, even in the absence of absurdly high tariffs, it can bring everything to a screeching halt anyway and trigger a recession. That's one of the big worries right now, is that even if these tariffs drop down to like 10%, 10% is still really high. And for a lot of these countries, it's like still like 30, 40, 50%. And like all of this is to say that like some people are going like, oh man, we're getting a good deal now that it's down to 30%. And like 30, like the EU tariffed goods coming in from the United States at like 5%. That was considered high. We have across the board 10%. Like, that's insane. That's insane. So, like, all that to be said, like economically, we're still in for a very, very bad time. Still in the cool zone for sure.
Their popularity is tanking because of all this crazy stuff that they're doing, snatching women and babies off the street who have done nothing wrong, tearing people apart, tearing communities apart. Now they're already on the defensive, and they cannot take this blow on Medicaid. And so Trump has been making calls to Republicans in the House saying, we don't know if we can cut Medicaid.
Are we screwed? I mean, we're not screwed, but we're in for a rough ride. We're in for a rough ride, and hopefully that rough ride is rough enough that it dissuades the Trump administration from trying more of this tariff hardball, But like, things are not going to be super pleasant for a stretch of time here. Also used suit, awooga to you, sir, and or ma'am, and or them, gentle them. There we go, nailed it.
Problem for them because they have no way of paying for these tax cuts for Elon and all of their donor class without touching Medicaid. They don't know how to do it. They can't figure it out.
There isn't a way.
And so Trump and the White House are starting to crack on this.
Because, guys, keep in mind, one of the big reasons that the Trump administration like unleashed Doge and like Elon Musk on the federal government was basically because Elon Musk is a colossal dipshit and basically approached Donald Trump and said, everything is computers. And he said, everything is computers. And Elon promised him to basically, find the money by rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse by digitizing and AI-ifying everything, right? So basically, Elon, in a bid to grab as much data as possible for his, hallucinating lie engine known as Grok, cut that deal, as well as trying to get more and more government contracts. And it turns out, hey, applying AI to everything didn't find a bunch of waste, fraud, and abuse, actively cost more. And now Republicans are having to do the dirty work themselves of actually cutting Medicaid. So, why is Elon not in jail? Largely because Republicans are in office and will never hold any of their own accountable for anything. Hello, non-binary. And Seventh Irreverend, thank you very much for the raid. Welcome, folks. Welcome, welcome. But we should remember who is breaking the law currently in order to prosecute them in the future.
Why I am telling you this. I am not here to give you any BS. When I tell you to make a call, I don't tell you this in circumstances when I don't think it's going to make any difference. This will make a difference. And so we need to be ahead of the ball. This is an opportunity. And this is an opportunity where we can start to mobilize in the next 72-ish hours that can change an outcome. And that is because we are here to talk to you about something before it happens. And so I want to tell...
Oh, shebang EXE. I am also not sure Dems have it in them to hold anyone accountable either. Which is, and this is why the important component in all of this is that Democrats on their own aren't going to be strong enough or willing enough to do the right thing. They aren't going to be willing to show strength. They're not going to be willing to fight back unless we mobilize and demand it ourselves. Okay? Unless we mobilize and demand it ourselves. Right? Nidot, thank you for the $5 Canadian. I'm a coder, and let me tell you about old systems like COBOL a bit in passing. He makes me just about get an aneurysm with his stupidity. Yep. I know almost nothing about COBOL, and even I know what he says about it is stupid as hell. That being said, like, we have to do the mobilizing, organizing, and fighting ourselves. They aren't going to do it for us. That's clear from do nothing Chuck Schumer. Okay? He's not going to do shit. It's been made abundantly clear to us on the ground that Democrats don't want to do anything. They want to let the Trump administration hang itself. But in the process, a lot of us are going to suffer. And we're not going to do that quietly, and we're going to fucking fight. We're going to get out on the streets. We're going to make our calls. We're going to make our displeasure known until it reverberates from the rooftops from here to Washington, D.C. And on the upcoming June 14th organizing day, I want to see as many of you as possible out on the streets protesting against this administration. Okay? June 14th, it's Donald Trump's birthday, it's Flag Day, and it is also now and henceforward No King's Day. Okay? So fuck the Baileys and get out there. All right? Because let me tell you something. Democrats are not just going to go, I guess we'll keep them accountable. No, we have to demand it. The movement that is going to be bringing Democrats back into power is on our backs. And we get to dictate what they are going to do. They don't get to say to us, oh, we're, maybe we won't hold them. No, you got to hold them accountable, motherfucker. That's part of your job. That's part of the mandate. That's part of why we're doing this. And so that's my perspective at any rate. Of course, Democrats of their own accord aren't going to do anything. But they were never going to. We have to mobilize the power to make them do those things. Thoughts on the viral campaign to flood the internet with pictures of Obama on the 14th of June? I would much rather effort be spent getting people out on the streets. The Democrat, I'm going to read Curly Dorothy's comment in Twitch chat because I think it's really apt. The Democratic Party is largely a right-wing party, not a principled left-wing opposition. The only way they ever demonstrate any courage is by overwhelming pressure from voters, and that is our job. Not only that is always our job, but more so than ever, it's our job right now to apply that pressure. What's Chuck up to? Haven't seen him in a while. Chuck Schumer's busy letting Republicans hang themselves while he twiddles his thumbs. Oddly twiddling his thumbs while they're simultaneously up his ass. Don't know how that's possible, but he's found a new way to do it.
Because as I mentioned, there are a lot of states, a lot of people don't know, no matter where you are in this country, whether you're a New Yorker like me, whether you're a Michigander, whether you're from Pennsylvania, Colorado, huge amounts of your state budget comes from Medicaid, because the way Medicaid works is that the way Medicaid gets dispersed is actually by the states. And so Medicaid is paid for by a combination of state and federal match money. In wealthier states, the federal match is lower. So, for example, in New York, the match is 1-to-1. For every $1 that New York spends, the federal government spends $1. Other states, like Kentucky, they actually get a higher federal match, where 70% of their around 70% of their Medicaid disbursements are paid by the federal government, and 30% are paid by the state. And
so this is why I wanted to talk a little bit about this here. That match means that cuts to Medicaid are going to hit red states a lot harder than they're going to hit blue states. One of the things I've been talking about for a while is the fact that the Trump administration is not good at being fascistic, right? Usually when you're a fascist, right, you want to give your supporters special little treats for supporting you. You know, this is kind of a through line for a lot of different fascistic movements, but there's some kind of material benefit to being in that in-group that is dispersed to you by the federal government, right? Or by the government you are trying to turn into a fascist apparatus. Donald Trump is actually doing a thing that is going to specifically hurt his supporters in a way that they aren't going to be able to ignore, and is going to hit them exponentially harder. Yeah, exactly. Viktor Orban clinging to power, Hitler solidifying his power base by dispersing the seized property of undesirables and Jews. Like this has been a thing for a while, but Trump hasn't done that. All of his policies are things that are disproportionately going to hurt Republican voters on the ground. Not the big donors. They're going to be fine. But, Republicans in rural Appalachia. I can never remember how to pronounce that right. I'm sorry. I'm from the Midwest. They're going to be fucked. They're going to be screwed over even harder than they were before. Just pretty hard. Appalachia? Gotcha. Thank you, Curly Dorothy. The incompetence of American fascism is what is saving us right now. All fascism is incompetent, but especially so this administration. Holy shit, Mississippi has the highest rate of federal spending to Medicaid? Yep. The entire South. If you are in the South, you might want to consider moving before these cuts go into effect, if you are at all able to, and especially if you depend on Medicaid.
Is that for so many state budgets, a huge amount of the money that comes in for the state budget in general comes in through Medicaid financing. And so if you touch Medicaid, you are also blowing a massive hole in a lot of state budgets, which are going to affect schools, which are going to affect lots of other things to make up the difference. And so I have some numbers here that I want to tell you about because I have pulled up some of the Medicaid. So for example, in Pennsylvania, 40% of the Pennsylvania state budget is comprised of the state and federal match for Medicaid. 40%. In Nevada, 32% of the entire Nevada state budget is tied to Medicaid. In Colorado, Gabe Evans's district, 36% of the entire Colorado state budget is composed of the Medicaid state and federal match. This is one of the reasons why they are going after Medicaid. Because if you go after Medicaid, you start an entire domino effect on state budgets. And so what they're trying to do is gut a lot of the federal matching and the federal finance, and then they're going to gut state budgets down the board. And, this isn't just blue states. North Carolina, 31% of that state budget is Medicaid. This is going to affect red states. It's going to affect blue states. It's going to affect everybody. And they are tricking people into thinking that they can support this whole waste, fraud, and abuse narrative, but the numbers do not add up. In fact, I've been sitting through all these committee hearings. The highest number that the Republican Party has advanced forward in terms of what can be attributed to quote unquote waste, fraud, and abuse. And mind you, not a single investigation has been put in front of the Energy and Commerce Committee to back these numbers up. But the highest number they have is $50 billion. Even if you believe everything that they say with no evidence, if they've identified $50 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse, why are they cutting $880 billion, nearly $1 trillion? The math is not mathing. And the reason for it is because they have been assigned to find $880 billion because they are going to give $880 billion to billionaires.
Yep. They're giving the biggest tax break in history to the wealthiest people in history. And none of you who make anything less than like, $1 million a year are going to see any kind of benefit to that whatsoever. And that's the vast majority of America.
And so, again, I want you all, I'm giving you all this information, not to frustrate it, not to paralyze you, but to say that is why you should go to the link in my bio, look up, see if your representative is on that committee, and make a call and tell them, do not vote for this reconciliation bill. Do not vote for this markup bill. And if you're...
And I'm just going to throw this in chat one more time. Check and see if your elected representative is on this committee. If they're not, get your friends, get your family, get everyone in your social network to check. Okay? A lot of these links, these calls to action, they're not just for you, they're for every single person you know. And part of your job is to share them with as many people as possible so that we can get it out and we can maximize the amount of pressure. Can I get my cat to check? Go for it.
If you are represented by a Republican who's not on the committee, it'll still kick you a call script in order to give a general call to them, because that vote will be coming to the floor eventually, and everyone's going to have to vote for it, or vote on it, rather. So I wanted to speak on that to you all, because in the next 72 hours, we have an opportunity. The Trump administration is already starting to crack on this. They are already starting to give way on this because MAGA's on Medicaid. And one of the differences that we have is that we fight for everyone to have a good life in this country. Even if you're a Republican, even if you voted for Donald Trump, I believe healthcare is a right, and I believe that you should have healthcare too. I don't care who you voted for. I'm trying to look out for y'all. So that is something that we can do right now in this moment, and we've prepared all the toolkits ready for that. So thank you. Some other things in terms of order to speak on, I'm happy to take some of your questions now, but it was so important. And I wanted to get this message out to you all as well, because in the next 72 hours, we have an opportunity to make a difference and to change the game. So thank you all so much. Someone said, just called, left a message. Thank you. Yes, I love to see that. Just instant action. That's what it's all about. I so really appreciate you all. And that's all it takes, just quick call. It literally takes 5 minutes. If you don't like talking on the phone, Saturday is an amazing day to call, because you go straight to voicemail and you can leave a voicemail and they'll log it for you. So thank you all so much. Again, link is in my bio. And it's ocasio-cortez.com/save Medicaid. Someone said, if we call Tuesday night, is that too late? No, it's not too late. I want to tell you, in fact, what is going to happen on Tuesday. So this markup is going to start currently scheduled to start at Tuesday at 2 p.m. It will be live streamed on C-SPAN and probably on some other places, like you probably find it on YouTube and what have you. And what's going to happen on Tuesday is that these amendments are, well, first and foremost, they're going to...
Well, the issue, Alan Smith, is that, if these cuts go into effect, we're all fucked. And no one's going to be laughing, because a lot of people who we like are going to suffer and die. It's not just bad people who are going to suffer and die. It's people we like, who are good, kind-hearted people in this community. And I don't want to see that happen.
They're going to introduce this bill. Everyone is allowed to issue an opening statement. So all, I think, around 50-something members of the committee will be giving at least a 3-minute opening statement, and then we go to markup. Now, what that means is that everyone is allowed to introduce
So let's do everything we can to avert
so
the bad
Democrats are going
timeline.
to be issuing plenty of amendments to this bill, and we're going to drag this thing out, okay? We're going to make this... We are going to grind this thing to a halt. I will be introducing amendments. The chairman will be introducing amendments. Every single member of the committee will be introducing amendments to this bill. We are not going to let them do this in any kind of easy way. I'm ready. I'm going to be physically preparing. I'm going to be staying in a seat for double-digit hours. And we are going to make sure that this happens. Their goal, what Republicans are trying to do, is that they're going to try to finish this probably by Wednesday at midnight. We may go longer. I don't know. We may be there till 11 p.m., midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised if we were there even longer, because we're going to do everything that we can to grind this process to a halt, to give you all as much time as possible to continue to organize, spread, call more people, get more people to call, and to really start building the momentum on this.
Yeah, I'm going to be insufferable about this for like the next 2 days. So sorry, y'all. I'm going to be banging this drum insufferably for the next couple days.
To know that the goal here is for this to really start to bloom. Tuesday is a major showdown, but it is not the last showdown. It is the first major showdown that we have, culminating before it goes to a House floor
the Raider.
vote. And I also want you to know that there are, in fact, many vulnerable members on that committee. And as we present amendments, they're going to think that they're slick. They think,
Yep.
And when I say that, what it means is that every amendment, there are people who are in really tight seats, and they think they can get out of a political bind by walking away from the committee and not showing up for the vote. Yes, they're going to try to not show up for the vote because they are so scared of having a record on this, and because they are not used to people following what happens in committee. So usually, if a vote is tough, you can just take a walk on it, literally leave the room while the vote is happening, and they don't expect people at home to know that they are skipping votes, because committee votes usually aren't as tracked by the public. And so by tracking it now, by blowing this stuff up now, by putting shining a light on it now in committee, they're going to get in trouble if they take a walk. Their communities are going to start to know that they're skipping votes. And so paying as much attention as possible. If you're a kind of person that like cuts clips or things like that, watching the hearings, having it on in the background, just making the view counts high, commenting on their Instagram posts, on their Twitter posts, etc., digitally, physically.
Digitally bully them, chat, but respectfully. Just show up in all their comment sections, in all their live streams. Just show up, make them aware that we are all watching them.
Town halls, asking them about it, in phones, in voicemails. A lot of them are running away and they're not hosting town halls, so you have to find them online, find them in committee. And so we want to make sure that we are amping up that pressure as much as possible. So someone said, for those of us who are just joining, once again, go to the link in my bio, ocasio-cortez.com/save Medicaid, in the next 72-ish hours, maybe to 80-ish hours, by around Wednesday, or Tuesday at midnight, between Tuesday and Wednesday. Up until then, I'd say, call, type in your zip code, see if you're represented by an Energy and Commerce Committee member, and give them that call. There's a call script. That's what we want you to do. So thank you all so much. So deeply appreciate it. And now I'll see what kind of questions you all have. I'll try to take maybe one or two. But I want to thank you so much. Someone said, my husband and I were volunteers and I got to meet you in Salt Lake City. Thank you so much for volunteering on the tour. Salt Lake City was amazing. A lot of what has been happening on this tour has been really, really incredible. We are in the heart, yes, we went to Denver. Yes, we went to Los Angeles.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Paladin. That sucks.
These stops have been in the heart of very Republican districts. And I want to say that there is something as horrifying as what we see, happening out of this administration. There is something very powerful happening among people across the country. The people who are showing up to our rallies are not the people that are not solely the people that historically come to our rallies. There's plenty of those, and we're so deeply excited to every single person, whether you have been following and been supportive for years, or whether you're just tuning in to politics and what's happening right now. I know that Senator Sanders and I are so deeply grateful to every single person who's been showing up in this moment and coming together in community to our rallies. However, some of the exciting things that we're seeing, like for example, in Las Vegas, a lot of people showing up to these things are showing up to their first ever political engagement.
Yep.
And so we are in a moment where
I mean, like, I'm just seeing this anecdotally in my life. Like, my mom's entire elderly lady friend group is now politically radicalized and turning out to protests. You know, they're in their 70s. Like, they are not the kinds of people who have typically gone to protests in the past, but they feel like an existential weight on them with what's happening this time around. Things are getting too stupid and too scary for even people who are typically like politically, you know, on the left, but not super engaged, you know? And like, I think that is becoming more true for people who have just historically been kind of tuned out, who've been grilling and chilling. Okay?
things are dramatically aligning. There are a lot of Republicans that are coming to these rallies.
Not divorced. Most of them still married.
In a positive way. There are a lot of independents that are coming to these rallies, people with no party affiliation. There are a lot of people who are showing up for the first time. I think in Las Vegas, 50% of our RSVPs were brand new. That
yeah, story of the
is
bar.
kind of unprecedented in politics. And I am deeply, deeply hopeful, despite the horrors that we are seeing right now. It is working. What this administration is trying to do is because they actually do not have the capacity to fully enforce the deportation machine that they are threatening. They are taking a Wizard of Oz kind of approach, which is an approach of mass intimidation and an approach that...
Which, incidentally, which I believe the wizard in the Wizard of Oz was based off of a president. Which one was it? Was it William McKinley? Yeah. Donald Trump really likes William McKinley, so this is actually really not surprising at all.
Televised as possible. Their goal is that if you make an example of 3 people, then millions of people will sit back and stop. They have done this on Palestine with the detainment of Mohsen, and I apologize if I'm saying last names incorrectly, Mohsen Maudawi, I think, but with Mohsen, Rumeysa, and Mahmoud Khalil, they detained 3 Palestinian or Palestinian rights advocates in an attempt to silence and politically silence free speech of anyone across the board, and in order to create a chilling effect. But 2 out of 3 of those individuals have been ordered to be released. And our goal is to make sure that Mahmoud is also able to be released back to his family as well. But that's just one example. They arrested Mayor Baraka of Newark yesterday because ICE does not... There is a dispute over... A lot of people don't know, like, the reason that this altercation even happened is because that facility, I don't even believe has not even been given a certificate of occupancy by the city of Newark yet. And so there's a dispute, I believe, over whether that facility even has the proper clearances to even open or operate. And mind you, a lot of these facilities, ICE facilities, are being run by private prison companies. These are private prison companies, for-profit corporations. And that is the reason why the conditions in a lot of these detention facilities are so horrible. It's not because of some any sort of federal law. It's the opposite. It's because the Trump administration is funneling money to private prison companies, and in order for them to maximize their profits, they are not feeding people properly. They are not getting people proper health care and medical care, and they are doing things with maximum brutality possible because they are, in part, because this is a massive donor giveaway for private prison corporations. So understand that is what is happening here. Those private prison companies, the two largest private prison companies that are benefiting the Trump administration because they're also giving kickbacks to the campaigns over here, are Core Civic and Geo Group. And a lot of them, many private prison companies are traded on, are publicly traded companies. You can literally look up the stock prices for Geo Group and Core Civic and look at their stock prices since the election.
Yeah, honestly, like as somebody who follows politics, it'd be so easy to make so much money if you didn't have morals. You know, genuinely, the second Donald Trump gets elected, if you had like just dumped your life savings into like, private prisons because you knew what he was going to do with private prisons, like you would have like quadrupled it. Like it's ridiculous. But like, don't do that shit. Don't do that. Can someone explain the Wizard of Oz allegory? Yeah, part of the allegory, like the Yellow Brick Road, is a stand-in for like the gold standard, and like there's also like a there was also like a coalition around like what was called the Free Silver movement, which was a policy the U.S. government had around the time of the publishing of the books, where like silver could be converted into currency at no cost. So basically, you just turn in silver to the U.S. government. They'd give you like it's like a whole thing. But then like the Wizard of Oz, it represents like either McKinley or like his like his advisors. McKinley was a proponent of the gold standard, so you follow the Yellow Brick Road, made out of gold to get to the wizard McKinley. So yeah, it's like a whole thing about like the gold standard, but also like about his a lot being like a whole lot of bluster, but actually not being all that powerful. It's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down if you want to read more about it, Yeah, the ruby slippers used to be silver slippers in the book, right? Yeah.
This is what it's all about. This right here is what it's all about. So anyways, we've got that's going on. And
good night, Ashley.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS.
Wait, what does that make Wicked then? Wicked is about like gay love. That's what Wicked's about.
Looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation...
No, the ruby slippers are MGM production didn't think silver would pop on screen, and they wanted red slippers to really like sell the technicolor of it all.
Not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required.
And also, they don't have to make an appointment beforehand. She's 100% correct about this. Like, in like CPB, like, and like ICE doctrine, in their bylaws, members of Congress can just like show up at a facility to like do oversight, to like walk through and take a look at how everything's running. They don't have to make an appointment. They can just drop in. They can go there every goddamn weekday if they want.
And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. Yep. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested. Okay? We need to be talking about ICE agent, the ICE agents and the cowardly policy of covering their faces.
Genuinely, this is true. We need like legislation that mandates standardized uniforms for ICE agents. We can't have any more of this like showing up in like I don't know, every other suburban dad's like fucking tactical vest outfit.
Love AOC so much. Far and away the best politician in the US right now.
She's doing so much more than most other people in Congress right now, and it's like it's not even close, really. Like we need like a couple hundred more of people like her. And it's wild that we only have like a handful. Hey, Canadian Brunch. Also, Dragonfly, thank you for the tier 4 sub. Thank you for supporting the show month after month. I really sincerely appreciate it. Also, Distron, you are crazy for thinking that leaving the gold standard was a bad idea.
Their faces. And a lot of them are also covering their identification. These are public employees that are accountable to the public and accountable to Congress. And this idea that we are going to allow some kind of paramilitary force to bloom that is not in any way accountable to the Constitution of the United States, we got another thing coming. Because that right there, that kind of attitude is what is actually anti-American. That kind of attitude is what is actually treasonous, is to attack our Constitution and to attack the obligations that we have in our Constitution, to attack free speech, to attack the powers of Congress, to erode our ability to investigate and conduct oversight. That is what is un-American. And this administration and Kristi Noem spits on the American flag every time she does that nonsense.
It's true.
So
they
I don't want to hear
traitors.
anything about America first. These people and this administration is putting America last by acting like a man. A man is who they are pledging allegiance to. That is not what this country is about. And it will never be what this country is about as long as I'm alive. I'll tell you that much.
Fucking traitors.
Piss me off. So, folks say, what do we do? There are actions.
Let me just say, that was some quality patriotism right there. Well done, AOC.
A lot of if you are concerned, especially on the immigration front, there are plenty of advocacy organizations that are conducting actions outside of ICE detention centers locally around you. If they are organizing one, I suggest you look that up. I maybe next time I go on live, I'll be able to provide you all a centralized resource like the one that we built for Medicaid today. I don't have that ready for you right now, but I am happy to start working on that as well. And someone said letters still good. Yes, letters are still great. And letters are still great. Physical actions, if you can show up, are really, really great. Red cards, circulating red cards. And again, that is one thing that I have provided in the past. Maybe I can see if we can put all of our toolkits on our website in an easily accessible way. But printing out and hanging up Know Your Rights information, they need a warrant. They need a warrant.
Yep.
Okay?
Not
Point blank, period.
And not an administrative one.
It is important that everybody know their rights.
Gotta be judicial.
Republicans are trying to traffic in something that is blatantly wrong. Representative Byron Donalds made a fool of himself on national television saying that constitutional rights are only for U.S. citizens. That is incorrect because constitutional rights are about the land. They are about the soil of the United States of America. This is the land of the free, okay? That means that it is our government that is responsible for being held accountable to the standards of the Constitution of the United States. It's not that there are some people that have rights and other people that don't have rights. We are a nation of due process. The government is required to conduct itself along the standards of due process. It is the government that is required to the standards of respecting free speech. It is the government that is required for to honor and respect the requirements around illegal search and seizure. Don't let them think that it's on you. It's on them. They are the ones that are held and accountable to that standard. And they're going on television trying to rip the Constitution.
I do appreciate the fiery rhetoric. I wish I saw more movement to actually prosecute ICE agents that overstep their bounds. And I don't see a ton of that. And maybe that's just because I don't look enough for that coverage. But like, I don't know. I wish I saw more of that. I think a lot of people would appreciate it. She's going to run. I mean, she's definitely going to run for something.
Rip this flag apart, trying to tell people that America is not America.
Good morning,
that
Mithril.
is the United States of Trump. And this country belongs to no one person. It just belongs to no one person. And millions of Americans have not been deployed, have not died in the streets, have not sacrificed everything to have our nation made a mockery of right now. Absolutely not. And so I say all of this because they want us to give up. They do these things that they know are going to carry on television. They think if you can arrest one mayor, then all the other mayors will stop then enforcing our rights. They think if you can just make an example of one person, of one member of Congress, and all 434 other ones will stand back. One of our biggest...
Dragonfly, I also think that she's going to run for president, but I'm waiting until after the midterms to see what she does. But like, she's doing all of the things she should do if she was going to run for president, you know?
Is to continue to say no and to not be afraid. To not be afraid. So, and again, that's why they do these like big raids in Boston on one day or in DC on another day, because they want people to start making these things go viral so that we feel hopeless, so that we feel like nothing's going to happen, and that we're all staying afraid. And our main obligation is to not be afraid, to show up to the actions, to both engage electorally and to also engage in the activism that's happening in our community. And yes, to register to vote, to also be paying attention to what activists are saying in the backyard. A lot of times people...
I hear you guys saying like it's not going to be for a while, but like we live in insane political times, and the amount of people who are going to be angry by the time Trump finishes his second term, it's going to be historical. It's going to be historical. Like, and I think that anything is possible in the cool zone. We could see her do a presidential run. I like it. It could happen.
That being engaged is either or. That it's either about being electoral and voting is corny and like whatever, or it's all activism, and then it's, you know,
hell yeah,
it's
Gina P.
the combined power and engagement of both of these things that have prevented autocracies from taking over in other places and circumstances. So our rights are use it or lose it. Our responsibility right now is to use it. We can start in the next 72 hours. Go to the link in my bio, make some calls. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
That was great. I'm glad we took some time to watch through that, because frankly, I think that helped break down and give us some clearer ideas of what actions we can do over the next, 48 hours. I'm going to be insufferable about this. So folks, I'm going to link it one more time. Check and see if your representative or your senator is on this committee. Well, I guess your representative is on this committee. But if they're not, continue sharing this link around, and go to 5calls.org and make your calls to your elected representatives anyway. Okay? Make your calls to your elected representatives anyway, even if they're not on that committee, to encourage them to do what they can to influence those around them on the committee. Do what they can to make the best outcome possible. Okay? 5calls.org is the other tool. Okay? I think we have a shot of actually doing something good here. So I'm trying to tell you guys to get to work. We are staring down the barrel of unimaginable suffering, and we need to do whatever we can, however we can, to try and avert that possibility. And Buffalo Guy, that might very well be the case, but I also don't give a fucking shit about the Republican ability to not care. I don't care about their ability to not care. Get louder. You know who didn't give a shit about civil rights for African Americans? White people in the 1960s. You want to know what ended up happening despite them doing everything in their power to not give a shit about things that affected them or other people? Guess what? Fucking movement still worked, motherfuckers. I do not care about your fatalistic individual attitudes about the likelihood of the success. I don't give a fuck about the odds. I'm asking you for a commitment of 5 minutes of your goddamn time. 5 minutes of your goddamn time to make your calls, leave messages, and do what you can to influence and organize. That's what I care about. Okay? So, all I'm saying, I know that there are a lot of people out there who are skeptical of the ability of this to work, but you know what I could guarantee? You know what I can guarantee? If you do nothing, the worst outcome is going to happen. That's what I can guarantee. I can't guarantee you success, but I can guarantee the pathway to failure, and it's doing nothing. So I'm asking you, instead of doing nothing, instead of wallowing in defeatism and misery indefinitely, I'm asking you to do something. That goes for all of you, because I know that there are a lot of people in this chat, you know, who feel beat up, who feel like we're not going to be able to do enough. I understand, but we have to move forward in the faith and optimism that every single person to the left of us and the right of us, you know, in this coalition is going to be doing their part too. We do not march alone. We do not call alone. We do not act alone. We act with millions of others alongside of us. So do something.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.